Evening, everyone. Uh, Thank you so much for those of you that have joined. I'm just gonna give it a minute or two, and then we'll start. Please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. All right.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So it's about 18:05, so we're going to get started. I hope you can see my presentation once again. My name is Chimbasanga, and I hope I'll be able to help you um apply for the Commonwealth or the Chevening Scholarship this application cycle. So today we're going to talk about recommendation letters. And I've noticed that many people that apply for scholarships do not really pay so much attention to recommendation letters. Only when it's too late is when they start running around scampering and trying to get these recommendation letters. And when people get the recommendation letters most of the time because they've gotten them in a rush, the work, the quality of the recommendation letters is not so good. And I think I'll be able to show an example of what's one such recommendation letter as we go on. So just to get started, so what is this recommendation letter and why is it very important? So basically, a recommendation letter is, as it is similar to a recommendation that you get when you're applying for employment. So it's a written document that is written by someone, your referee in this case, who might be a professor, a teacher, mentor, or academic advisor to support your application. So in this case, you're applying for a scholarship, and also you'll be applying to universities. So your referees will provide a document that will support your application. So they'll speak on your behalf, speak to the good things about you. The reason why the scholarship commission or the university should select you out of a pool of all the people that have applied. There are 2 days, 3 days ago, I shared a post on LinkedIn of how many people apply for the Chevening Scholarship. Every year, there are about 60,000 applications for the Chevening Scholarship. But out of that 60,000, they only pick about 1,700 worldwide. So that is less than 2% chances of getting the scholarship. So if you have to be part of those 2%, that 2%, you need to make sure that you do everything that you can to be part of that small number. And to do that, you need to do the work. And working involves also making sure that you get very good recommendation letters from your referees. So, as I said, I think during the first presentation that I ever made, I did highlight this page here, where it shows for this particular scholarship, the Joint Japan World Bank Group scholarship, the quality, of recommendation carries a weight of up to 30%. Okay, so imagine if your application, maybe your essays may be certain percentage, maybe your grades might be a certain percentage, meeting the eligibility criteria might be a certain percentage, but up to 30% comes from your recommendation letter. So imagine if you overlook the recommendation letters, that can either make or break your application. So referees are really, really important, and we have to make sure. It's not clear how much the Commonwealth or even either Chevening are attached to this, the weight they attach to recommendation letters. I've checked so many documents. I've tried to Google so many pages just to check exactly how much is attached, but I might believe it's quite significant. A lot of scholarship bodies do attach similar weights, so I wouldn't be surprised if the weight that is attached to recommendation letters has been 25% to maybe 35%. So we have to be very careful, knowing that the recommendation letters really carry a lot of weight. So that means we have to ensure that we get the best possible recommendation letters. So, in terms of scholarship bodies that are our focus this evening, the Commonwealth Scholarship and the Chevening Scholarship. So ideally, the Commonwealth Scholarship will ask for three recommendation letters. The first one is an academic recommendation letter. So this could be from your the previous school that you've attended, previous university. And of course, some people would say, but I left university maybe 5 years ago, or 6 years ago, 10 years ago. I don't think anybody remembers me from those universities. So what is going to speak for you in that case is what grades you got at the time you were at the university. If you got some accolades, some awards here and there, those things should speak for you. So it doesn't matter how long you've been out of university. You can always use what you got from the university to support your recommendation letter. Although generally the rule of thumb is if you've been out of a university for more than 3 years, you might have done something else. You could go ahead and just submit different, maybe just from your two recommendation letters from your supervisor. Some programs may allow that, but for the Commonwealth, it's strict. It says you should have an academic recommendation. Further going down the line, the employer. So this has to be your supervisor most of the time. It can be anybody, as long as somebody who's higher than you. It shouldn't be someone at the same level, someone who's below you, ideally. This should be someone who's slightly above your level. That's why the best person who can write a good recommendation is your supervisor. And good luck if you don't have a very good relationship with your supervisor. But if that's the case, you can always go above their head and try to get someone who's slightly above them to write that recommendation for you. But it's very important that for the Commonwealth Scholarship, you get a recommendation letter from your workplace. And then Commonwealth also asks for what they call a personal recommendation. It's quite tricky, this recommendation. It's not your friend, it's not your employer, and it's not your university, but it's someone that knows you in some sort of capacity, most like a professional capacity. This is a person that who should provide that recommendation, personal recommendation letter. So These usually are people that transcend both the workplace, maybe even your school, and your community. So this be someone that has known you for quite some time. It could be someone, maybe someone from your church, for instance, who has who knows you professionally, who has known you from the time you were young, how you went through school, how you became what you are today. Maybe it might be like in my case, this was my mentor actually, and I'll talk more about this man who was not my supervisor at work. He's never taught me, but he's just someone who has my best interest at heart, and he's made a very good personal recommendation, a personal sort of referee for cases like this. So you have to look within your networks, look within yourself, and see who exactly is can be a good candidate to provide this personal um, recommendation. And to be honest, these can actually provide a very well-rounded uh, recommendation letter because they know you from different time points. They've known you for a while. They've known your achievement. They've seen how you've grown in a specific area. It could be professionally. So they can comment on that and provide quite a very strong recommendation letter. On the other hand, if we compare with the Achieving Scholarship, of course, the Achieving Scholarship, they'll ask for two recommendation. So the first one might be academic. You can get two academic recommendation letters. You can get one professional, one academic, or you can get two professional. It all depends. But the goodness with Achieving Scholarship is you won't need the recommendation letters at the time that you are submitting your application. You need them at the time that you are shortlisted somewhere there for interviews. I think that's the time they request for recommendation letters. All you need to do at this point is just ensure that you just insert the names and email addresses of the referees that you would want so that they can provide a recommendation letter at some point. But that's a bit of a difference there. In terms of submission for the Commonwealth Scholarship, you need to submit your recommendation letters the time you're submitting your application. And again, the goodness is these bodies allow you to get the actual recommendation from your referees, and you'll be able to submit them yourself. You'll see for some of the universities that we're going to look at, they actually they'll ask the referees to send the recommendation letters electronically. And we'll talk about how you send some of these recommendation letters down the line. So this is the instructions from the Commonwealth page about referees. So it says the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission will not accept supporting documentation submitted outside the online application. Now, if you go to this page, you will see that the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission has provided clear instructions of what should be a recommendation letter and who should be your referee. It provides some prompts for the referee who be writing a recommendation for you. They need to at least understand what is here. So this is a big problem. Most of the referees, you tell them, oh, there's this page, you can even send them the link, say this is what is required of a recommendation letter. But believe you me, most of the times a referee is quite a very unique individual. They don't owe you anything, whether they write for you or not. It won't change anything is in their lives. They'll go on with their life. So it is you who needs to push them. That's why you need to be very strategic in choosing people that are supposed to be your referees. If you just choose someone who's very busy, a high-ranking government official, or someone, a minister, for instance, where are they going to get the time to write a specific recommendation for you? That's a big problem. Your referees, they are also governed by the rules that govern you. So if they say you need to provide this information, you need to then your referees need to provide the information in the same way that it's been put here. So how long and in what capacity they've known you, you know, They also need to comment on suitability for the proposed scholarship, and also talk about things like how your capability to grasp concepts and reason analytically, capacity for original thought, motivation and perseverance in achieving objectives. These are specific things that they've written. So guess what? If someone at the end of the application they are reviewing, they have a checklist and they are looking at, have they stated how long they've known the applicant? No, zero. Have the referee have they commented on the suitability for the applicant to receive a scholarship? If not, zero. Can the referee grasp concepts and reason analytically? They need to mention all those things. But if they don't, this is the benchmark that the commission is using as a checklist. If these things are not there, it's already a problem for you. So you have to make sure that you push your referees to this page. They need to understand what is on this page, everything that is there, and what you're supposed to what they're supposed to write. For the Commonwealth, it's very comprehensive. So they also ask for assessment of the applicant's particular strengths and weaknesses. All those things need to be there. The applicant's potential to impact development in their home country. These things need to be part of the recommendation letter. But now the problem is which referee will get the time, sit down, write this as if they've gone back to university. This has changed a little bit from the last time I applied, so it might be a little bit different. I'm going to read one of the recommendation letters that I got, but I just bear in mind that things have changed a little bit. But I urge you to have a look at this page as you prepare to get in touch with your referees. Not going to dwell so much on the evening. As I've said, this one I think it's pretty much liberal the way it is. You don't, it's not very strict like the Commonwealth. You don't need your references at the time of application. You just have to include the details of the referees as you send your application, as you submit your application before or on the 5th of November this year. Just a critical issue there, not very critical, but something which actually stood out to me, the recommendation letter for the Chevening scholarship is supposed to be addressed to the British Embassy and High Commission in the applicant's country or territory. So don't write to the Chevening Committee or whoever, a graduate applicants committee. It needs to be very clear where it's going. This might either break or make your recommendation. Who are you writing the letter to? And as your referees are writing these letters, these are some of the things that you need to insist. And I'll show you exactly how you can do that without sounding a little bit overbearing. So then who should write? Who should write the recommendation for you? Basically, it has to be someone who knows you well and who can comment. And not just someone who knows you well. I'll also add someone who has the time to write as they've been instructed by the scholarship body. So this person, you should be really have a good relationship with this person that you can easily communicate with them. Shouldn't be a relationship that is so twisted that you can't easily communicate with them. Because how are you going to tell them, say, what, sir, I think you didn't adhere to the instructions on the Commonwealth Scholarships page. They said you should indicate this and that, and that you didn't do that. You need to be free enough to ask them, this is something that I would want you to do for me. And what I find to be very important is when you're asking for referees, it needs to be a formal thing. It shouldn't be something that you just take by the way, or you just send a text to someone, or you send just an email. You need to ask them formally, are you willing? And ask them clearly, are you willing to write me a strong recommendation letter? What we've seen is sometimes these people write you a recommendation, but it's not strong. So a recommendation letter which is not strong is as good as no recommendation at all. So you need to have a very clear recommendation letter. They need to have a bit of credibility, who is this person? If you're an academic referee, if the one person you've reached out to is a professor and someone else has just reached out to a tutor, obviously the professor may have a bit of credibility compared to a tutor. But if the tutor knows you very well than the professor, you can always go for the tutor. But the credibility that they carry, wherever it is, if it's an academic referees, which school they're coming from, and they need to demonstrate that. The Commonwealth is big on having these recommendation letters on headed papers. You need to have these letters on headed paper. For some organizations, some universities, as you apply, for those universities, I'll talk about how these recommendation letters are submitted. But for some universities, they'll ask that the person that you are using as a referee uses a work related email address, or an email address that is affiliated with an organization. All that gives credibility to the referee. So if someone is going to send an email and the email address is, smallchicks@gmail.com 1962, already that takes away the credibility. You could easily form an email address like that and submit your own referees, which they are trying to avoid. So it has to be attached to an organization. And I'll talk more about this when we talk about universities that require this, particularly those universities in the top 10. They're very strict about how the referees come, and they've got strict criteria. So let your referee have credibility, and the credibility also comes from, the organization that they represent. That's why some people will try to go for a well-known figure, like the minister or permanent secretary or CEO of a firm. But it doesn't have to be that. Just if they could demonstrate that they've got a bit of credibility, and I'll show you in what they should write in paragraph 1 to kind of demonstrate that credibility. And of course, this can either be academic, a referee from your school, previous school, or school you're currently attending, professional from your workplace, and also, in this case, mentors, particularly for the Commonwealth Scholarship, which requests for you to have a personal referee who in my case, used was a mentor. Okay, so who shouldn't write for you? If all those people are the people that should write for you. So family or personal friend, already these are biased and they shouldn't write for you. If your family shouldn't write for you, basically, write a recommendation. So this is my son, or this is my niece, or, they shouldn't do that. Yeah, you shouldn't get your family or personal friend to do recommendation letters for you. So it has to be someone who you're not related to. Also, shouldn't be someone who doesn't know you well. This is the problem of going with these high profile figures, people that do not know you very well. Of course, you could argue that even these academic referees, most of them don't know me very well, because maybe it's been a while ever since I left school, or, were so many in class, they can't remember me. But the difference with those is you've got credibility because you can show them, I got an A in your class, I did well in your class. I was good in your class. I remember this that you taught me. You could remind them, and they could write for you. But just going for someone because you think, oh, this one works for the British Embassy, so I think maybe a good referee, that doesn't work. So it also shouldn't be someone unrelated to the field you're applying. So for instance, if you're in a health related course, this one's a little bit tricky, but it makes sense if you ask someone who's in your field to write for you, because they understand what you're applying for. They understand the merits of you getting that scholarship, and in particular for the Commonwealth Scholarship that is big on development impact. Someone in a field should write for you. If you get someone who's completely not in your field, uh, not a good move. Might be a weak recommendation. So it shouldn't be someone you haven't informed properly. particularly for myself, before I ask for recommendation, I would ask for a meeting with my referees. Could be a Zoom call, could be a phone call, just to explain exactly what is expected of them. They don't have to just see an email. A few days ago, I received an email from a student of mine that I knew very well when I was still doing clinical practice. This was a brilliant student, but they ambushed me. I just saw an email in my inbox. You've received, and this one has put down your email as what could provide a recommendation letter. I'm like, this person has not even called me to talk to me, to ask me whether this is for real, this is happening. So it has to be someone you've informed properly. They should know what is happening. And believe you me, for the Commonwealth Scholarship and also Chevening, if you're applying for both, you need a bunch of recommendation letters. And I'll show you the number in a short while, but you need quite a number of recommendation letters. When I posted this on LinkedIn, somebody said, but you could just ask these three to write multiple ones. Yes, they can do that, but there's a way that they're supposed to write. They need to be specific. You need to avoid generic recommendation letters that have just been written for can be used for any university. You can't do that. You need to be very specific. If your recommendation is going to the University of Oxford for a particular course, let it state in the recommendation letter that this person is applying for a MP for a Master of Science in Global Health at Oxford. Let it say that. It shouldn't just be I would like to support the recommendation for this one at your institution. You're not doing the work. Somebody has written exactly which institution they're applying to. So if you just leave it like that, it's not very clear. It might not work very well. Again, someone unreliable and responsive. Mostly, again, I'll refer to the high ranking officials. They have got so many issues they are working on. Your business is a small thing for them. They're just doing you a favor. So if you do not push them, they're unreliable. It's might not work well for you because they might either send you a substandard recommendation or basically a recommendation. They might not even send it on time. As I mentioned, I have a friend of mine who had crafted a very good application for, I think it was Shivni, or was it? I think it was Commonwealth, I think many years ago, 2019, the time I was applying at the time. But their referee didn't give them the recommendation letters on time. So the referees were sending with network issues, the time the colleague got that recommendation letter, it was too late. It was too late. So you could lose a recommendation just because the person who was supposed to provide one was unreliable and unresponsive. And also, let me add an extra point here. The person that writes you ask to write the recommendation should be willing and able to provide you a recommendation letter. If they're not willing, they might write something that you know is negative. You know, so sometimes you ask people to to, to provide you a recommendation letter and they're hesitant, doing this and that, that's a red flag. Run away, run away. It happened to me the time I was applying in 2019. One of my seniors had asked to write a recommendation letter for me. Uh, as we were approaching the deadline, we we're having a ward round in the hospital, and the guy wired me, during the ward round. And afterwards, I had to go to him and remind him, so, sir, there's this thing that is pending. And he was like, yeah, I'm supposed to write, but even with the way you perform today, like, where do I even get the motivation to write a good recommendation? Believe you me, I couldn't run as fast as possible to go and remove that referee from the portal. I think it was something where he needed to write in a web page rather than give me an actual letter. I had to remove him because couldn't know what he could have written if he was already being negative. It has to be someone who's willing to write you a strong recommendation. If they understand you're a good individual in your workplace or you're a good student, that person should be able to write that, should be willing to write you a strong recommendation. Okay, so again, bring me to the topic of how are these submitted. So I'm putting this is from the University of Oxford. So I've highlighted there in yellow. It says, if the recommendation letter is uploaded to the application or sent by yourself to them, they do not accept. They do not accept PDFs, words, documents, all these formats that they've written there. They do not accept. They expect the referee to write. So for these universities, as I said, the top 10 universities, those top 10 universities, mostly they'll ask you to insert the email address, and from that email address that they'll send to the, to your referee to fill in. Okay. Sometimes it can be a list of questions, sometimes it can be essays, sometimes I can even ask them to upload a PDF document, but you do not see it, you do not see it, and it's very difficult for them. But this is where I can give you a high yield tip. So when you're applying to such a university where they're asking you directly to put a referee, so you need to test out the system. You should have your own other email address that you need to insert there and see how your referee is going to receive that email. So you need to, when you are reminding them, you need to tell them, oh, look out for an email which is saying referees dot this university, dot com. It needs to be like that. And you should have seen to say, oh, so there are a couple of questions. They don't need to prepare a PDF. They just need to respond to these questions, So, but for you to know that, so initially you need to add your own other email address that you see as the prompt comes to you. Don't use the email address that you've used for the application itself. Use a different email address, That's why when applying for scholarship, it's a game of having different email addresses that you regularly check, and you commit to be checking these email addresses for at least a year. Because you need to test out the system, see how it comes. And after you've seen how it comes, what is expected, what they're supposed to write, then you could tell them if some of them ask you to draft the recommendation before they submit. So you need to have a feel of what is there as you draft. So for question 1, this is the draft. Question 2, this is the paragraph. Question 3, so on and so forth. So you need to see what's there. After you've seen that, you can remove your email and put, the referees that you need to that you're asking for a recommendation letter. Commonwealth Scholarship Commission, if you look at 5 there, it says references, scans of your 3 references, each on institutional letterhead or an email clearly showing the sender's detail, merged into one file. So you need to get all the 3, merge them into one file, and for the Commonwealth Scholarship, you upload them. Colleagues, you do not have a lot of time. If you're thinking of applying for the Commonwealth Scholarship, you have barely 2 weeks, and you need to start having this dance with your referees if you've not yet reached out to them. Now, this one is tricky, especially if you want them to put it on a letterhead. So think of the process. Most of them, they can draft for you, if they can. But I think what I've noticed, most referees will say, send me a draft. Once you send that draft, they'll need to put it on a letterhead. From the letterhead, print it. Once it's been printed, sign it. After it's been signed, scan it. After it's been scanned, sent back to you. Believe me, that's a lot of work for someone who's busy, So you need to be very strategic in how you get these, Someone from your university, are they going to get the time to do this dance? If you need to go there physically and say, oh, here's the draft, can we get this done? Let's get it done. You sign it, I'll scan it, I'll do that. If you're in a place, your university is far from where you are, send someone, who lives in that place. Please, can you go to this university? Talk to the referee, say, "Oh, you need to do this, but I know it's a lot of work. I'm trying to make it as easy for you. Can I send someone who can come and help you with doing the running around?" Just like that. Others say, no, I'll do it. These are mental barriers that the referees get when they start thinking of the process of what they're supposed to do. So if you're sending someone to help them out. It makes it easy. If you're in the same location, maybe you're in Lusaka, they're from University of Zambia. Oh, go ahead, go talk to your lecturer or your professor, whoever it is, and get this thing done as soon as possible so that you can get your recommendation letters. Okay, so how do you get a strong recommendation? First of all, as I said, you need to contract your referees at least a month before the deadline. Have a formal meeting with them. Talk about what you're looking for in a recommendation. Also, you need, for the Commonwealth, as I've already said, you need three. That's the one is the academic, the second one is from the employer, third one is personal, So you need three. So what you can do is reach out to as many as you can. I usually go with six, like double the number, because believe you me, some of them won't be available to do that. Some will say they're willing to do, but won't do it. So when you've got a huge number like three, you've got referees you can fall back on. You also need to set your own deadline. So for the deadline to submit the Commonwealth Scholarship is 15th of, uh, of October, right? So don't give them 15th as the deadline. Give them 12th or 11th or even 10th. Say, no, deadline is the 10th. I need to get this by the 10th. So that in case they spill over, which always happens, believe you me, at least you have your own deadline. So they spill over a couple of days, you still have leeway to submit. You won't lose out. So give them your own deadline. It's difficult for those university applications that ask for, like, where they're supposed to fill in a web page because they can see the actual deadline. But for the Commonwealth and the Chevening, where you actually need to get the paper-based recommendation letters, please give them your own deadline. It should be a couple of days before the actual one. So, and you need to be very tactful as you reach out to them. Most of them won't tell you. Some can tell you overtly, send me a draft, but you need to ask, can I send a draft recommendation, and if they say yes, then you're in luck, because from a draft recommendation you can answer all those many questions that the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission is asking for. You can write your own things and send it, ask them to just edit and send, and of course put them on a headed paper. It's the easiest to do. Of course, it's a dance of them printing and signing and scanning and what have you. Quite a number of things they need to do. So you need to be on top of your game. Try to help them in as much as you can to get them. And of course, you need to submit all your recommendation letters with your application for the Commonwealth Scholarship. So I put this for this slide here. If you look on your right, I think it should be on your right. You see, this is there's this mapping software that HR has used. I think there was this study that was done where they were tracking how the people that are reviewing the CVs look at it. So here, where you see the red point, the red concentration, that's where people that when they're reviewing, CVs look at. So that's why for some of you that in my one-on-one arrangement, I've asked for your CVs so that I can review and give feedback. Your CV needs to be concise, shouldn't be more than 2 pages. Ideally, even if it's an academic CV, shouldn't be more than 2 pages. People are fatigued. They read a lot of these CVs. So just keep it concise and stick to the bullet. But I highlight it here because if your referee refuses for you to send them a draft, what you need to send them is an expanded CV. And your expanded CV should have paragraphs, not just points, paragraphs, because you know that they will need to cut from that CV and please send it in Word document. Also, you can even add comments, say, oh, I did this when I was this. So that's why I'm writing this paragraph, you know. It can be long because they'll just cut and put things together from your CV. But any other CV that you are submitting, either to work or to a scholarship, it needs to be concise. Let it just stick to what what are the key areas that you've done I've seen a couple of people putting so much, concentrating so much on the work experience. It needs to be a balance. Your work experience as well as, you know, your academics. So if you're going to put the courses that you did, you need to explain a little bit of the courses you did. How are they in tandem with what you want to do now? There needs to be that relationship. So, of course, if they don't ask for if your referees do not ask for a draft or do not want a draft, send them that expanded CV, send them a personal statement, your personal statements that you've drafted to show them what you're thinking and what's your motivation for applying for this scholarship. And of course, give them the information. Share the links to these important pages. Information for referees. You need to do that. You can even put them in an email. You know what? You can go to this link for more information, but what is required is you need to comment on bullet number 1, number 2, number 3, just like that, so that they are clear on what is expected of them. So what common mistakes to avoid? You know, there are a lot of things that can go wrong. So, of course, as I've said, either university or scholarship commission will be very specific in exactly what you're supposed to submit. So your scholarship shouldn't be vague. Most of the time when you ask a university for a recommendation, they say, "Oh, go to the dean of this school to write you a recommendation." They will look at your result and just get a template that they've been using to send to everyone. Nah, don't don't use that. That is better. That is as good as not having a recommendation letter. So it needs to be very specific, not vague. There should be specific examples, and I hope I'll be able to demonstrate as I read. Of course, the recommendation letters also need to be not to have grammatical errors, incoherent statements. It needs to be the same, as good as your essays. Things need to be perfect. Your people reviewing your application shouldn't struggle to read what do they mean? What is this sentence? Why so many, And again, it shouldn't be too short or too lengthy, You see recommendation to whom it may concern. We support this one for the Commonwealth Scholarship. Regards. Come on. That's good as nothing. It needs to have a little bit of meat. So it shouldn't be more than 3 pages. 1 to 2 pages is good. About 1,000 words is acceptable, So that's the way it's supposed to be. And again, not following instructions is a big problem. Okay, so I'm hoping I'll be able to show examples of recommendation letters, and then we'll wrap it up. So let's see, I'm already running out of time. Okay. Okay, can you see this recommendation letter on your screen? Or are you still seeing the presentation? Someone to confirm.
I can see the letter.
Oh, you can see the letter. Fantastic. So this is an example of a letter that you... Hello? Or someone talking? Okay. Anyway, for those that have confirmed, thank you. So this is a letter which I think is quite standard. I would say it's inadequate, and I'll tell you why. So I've redacted some names, This is a letter that is being used by one of my mentees. So they asked me to redact some names, and I've done that, but for learning purposes. So this looks good. It's from the University of Zambia, School of Medicine, Office of the Dean. It looks nice. It's on a headed paper. They've done the right thing. But here are a bit of mistakes, okay? To whom it may concern, you know. They could write to whom it may concern, that's fine, but it might be better if they're writing to the scholarships, the Commonwealth Scholarship. Let them say it's the scholarship, it's a Commonwealth Scholarship they're writing to. If they're saying like for the evening, it says clearly it should be addressed to the High Commission. let it say clearly, not to whom it may concern. So red flag already there. Dear sir, madam, no problem. Letter of support for this person, that's okay. On behalf of the University of Zambia School of Medicine, I'm proud to strongly support this person's application. I'm currently serving as their position. In this capacity, I oversee School of Medicine student training. As a student, this person was focused and well motivated and completed her training as a biomedical scientist. Currently, she's this and that at this place, the district health office. She has also done further training, obtaining a certificate in public management and governance from this university. Building local health research and clinical capacity is among the highest priorities of the government of the Republic of Zambia and at UNZA School of Medicine. We recognize the need to develop a core of early stage health practitioners. Therefore, I'm in support of this training plan of this person. In summary, this person is an ideal candidate for your program, and she has my strong backing for her goals to become a national skilled worker. So it's a standard recommendation letter, but I would say I would say it's weak, it's inadequate, it doesn't have specific examples as they're being asked for. It doesn't say how this person is related to the applicant, and of course the length seems good, but I think they could have added more words to this. So this, if you get a scholarship, a recommendation letter like this, be a little bit worried, okay? And I'll show you why. So let me show you the recommendation letter that I got for my current program at Harvard. And this was for a university. So I've redacted my referee's name, but this answered the question of what they were supposed to write. It's quite lengthy, but I'll try to write. So look at this headed paper, beautiful, from my previous school, the London School of Economics and Political Science. The date it was written, they had put their name up here, but I redacted it. The school they were applying to, Dear Graduate Selection Committee, MPH application recommendation for Dr. Sanga Chimba. So it is my pleasure to recommend Dr. Chimba Sanga for admission to the Master of Public Health in Epidemiology program at the Harvard T.H. Chan University. So already it's very specific. What am I applying for? They need to put it in the letter. It needs to be specific. And then they go ahead and introduce themselves. I'm Assistant Professorial Research Fellow at the Department of Health Policy, London School of Economics and Political Science. I'm part of the LAC team working on the African Health Observatory platform on health systems and policies, a collaborative partnership fostering cross-country learning to promote knowledge exchange and evidence-informed policymaking. So they are building up a bit of credibility. Who is this person? They're telling I'm an assistant professor. I'm doing at this school, I'm doing this. They're introducing themselves. And then they go on to say, in addition, I teach master's level courses at LSE. During the academic year, I taught the financing core course, and Sanga was one of my students. So they've established why they qualify to write, because they know me from this angle. So and then they go on now to add the meat to the letter. Dr. Sanga studied for the Todd Master's Program in Global Health Policy at the London School of Economics from September 2019 and completed his coursework in May 2020. Following this, he worked on his dissertation independently, submitting it in August 2020. So they're adding the dissertation independent because there was COVID, so we had to leave the UK prematurely because of the lockdowns and course. So that's why she's putting this. Under my supervision, he consistently demonstrated a desire to learn and apply the learnings, especially in his home country, Zambia. Beyond his academic achievement, he showed a profound interest in other topical and applied health issues. While at the LSE, he was the founding editor of the Journal of Health Policy and Economics, a peer-reviewed journal showcasing contributions from LSE students. Following the completion of his third program, Sanga joined Collegia, a UK-based global health think tank, where he made significant contributions to several research projects, with the biggest being a systematic review on health in urban spaces conducted over a period of over 2 years. Sanga also actively participated in extracurricular activities while at LSE. He served in the leadership team of the Health Society at LSE, where he coordinated activities including organizing the society's flagship trip to the World Health Organization headquarters. Furthermore, he volunteered at MedAir UK, an international organization dedicated to public health, to augment his knowledge in the field of public health. His ability to balance coursework with extracurricular engagements demonstrates his character as a well-rounded student. I'm confident that Sanga's commitment to professional growth aligns with your program. He's a self-starter and dependable, always delivering on time. This attribute was demonstrated especially during the conduct of his dissertation research, analysis, and writing, which he undertook off campus due to the pandemic-related restrictions with minimal support. Importantly, Sanga knows when to consult while working on a project and does not hesitate to do so. This ensured the timely and efficient delivery of academic outputs. He is also a team player and always ready to support others towards the achievement of the team goals. His contribution during classes and readiness to share his experiences working in the health sector in developing country always enriched class discussions. Sanga is an honest individual and strives to make informed judgments on matters requiring his attention. I've continued to engage with Sanga as he navigates his career and research pathways. He's sufficiently motivated, well-suited, and capable of undertaking this course and subsequently applying the learnings in a relevant role in future. I believe that he will be a great addition to the cohort of students on the program too, and many will learn from him. I hope Dr. Chimbasanga's application is considered favorably and welcome the opportunity to discuss his abilities and suitability for this course further. And then yours sincere, they signed and put, I've redacted all that. So if you can see from this comprehensive, if you compare it to the previous one, you can see how the professor answered the question. Now I'll ask you this question. Do you think I drafted this or they drafted it because they know me so well? We'll answer this at the end, or you can put it in the chat box so that we see what you guys are thinking. I'm going to look at one more essay. This was a personal statement for the personal recommendation as required by Commonwealth. So this was when I was applying many years ago, in December 2018. So here it is. This person they've redacted, but as you can see, they've written to the correct address. Okay, the recommendation for Dr. Chimbasanga, MD. So it is my great pleasure to recommend Dr. Chimbasanga for the Commonwealth Scholarship. I've known him and I've been his mentor for the past 4 years. Okay, so this is my mentor. They're not my friend, they're not my supervisor, they're not my lecturer at the school, but this person has been my mentor. So for a personal recommendation, you can get a mentor. If you don't have a mentor, you probably need to get one. Mentor looks up to you. They've walked the path that you need to walk. And once you get in touch and just tell them you would like to learn from them and want to sit at their feet of mentorship, believe you me, they may do great things for you, like writing this application letter. I mean, this recommendation letter. So this gentleman goes on to introduce himself. I'm a global health diplomat and worked previously as Deputy Director Emergency Health Services at the Ministry of Health, Zambia, and Alien Clinical Care as this and that and that and that. I initially met him in Moscow, Russia, while attending this WHO COP meeting in my capacity at the time as Republic of Zambia's representative to the United Nations office in Geneva and Vienna. So they clearly state how our relationship started. At the time, Chimbo was still an undergrad student about to graduate from medical school. It was at this time that I learned of his desire to pursue a career in global health later in his life. Since then, I've been one of his mentors, providing guidance in his professional career. So look at this very interesting introduction. He talks about how we've known each other, from when we've known each other, how he goes even further to say when we met, and also discusses, this is a person who's in global health, he's a global health diplomat. And at the time I was applying to a master's of global health, a master's in global health policy. What a marriage made in heaven. an ideal referee. So it goes to say Chimba has always distinguished himself as an outstanding individual both in his personal and professional life. He's a passionate, hardworking, and strongly driven young doctor whose track record of achievement speaks for itself. In 2008, he scooped a generous scholarship to study general medicine in Russia, where he graduated with honors and as one of the best students at the Russian National Research Medical University in 2015. If they wanted to review this, they could have seen that I'd attached my award as well as my grades, my transcript to show that I was a good student. But there's no doubt that he had to work extra harder to overcome the challenges of studying in a foreign language in order to graduate with honors. Graduated very well, was difficult, it was in a foreign language, yet overcame. Goes on to say in 2016, when he was employed as a junior resident medical officer by the Zambian Ministry of Health, he expressed interest in publishing a book about deadly medical myths in Zambia. This was motivated by frustrations he faced in clinical practice from several patients that had refused certain treatment options due to their held traditional myths and tradition. Being keen on making a difference, he wrote and published a book on deadly medical myths in Zambia in order to enlighten both the health workers and community on medical myths that interfere with clinical practice. I helped in editing this book and I was really impressed with his thought process and the amount of research he had put in. Amazingly, he was able to research and publish a book while holding on to a full-time job, which requires him to put in more than 50 hours a week. In November 2018, he was selected by the Young African Leaders Initiative, YALI, of the United States of America State Department to do a 4-week professional course in public management and governance at the University of South Africa, UNISA, to augment his efforts to promote health. I'm confident that this outstanding young man can also make a difference in global health space. He has already demonstrated leadership and tremendous support in going beyond his mandate to improve the health of his community. I strongly encourage you to consider him for the Commonwealth Scholarship, which will help him acquire more of the skills he needs to make a meaningful contribution to the health of our people in Zambia and in our sub-region. Please feel free to contact me if you should have any further questions. Sincerely, and I put the information which I had redacted. So I think this is what I'm saying. If you saw these recommendation letters, I think they were really on point. I think they were powerful. Especially this one. I like this one so much because it was a very good personal recommendation letter as required by the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission. And also he highlights this book that I published. Yeah, to get a scholarship, sometimes you might need to go a little bit overboard. So in this case, I did publish a book. At the time, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to do proper research, but I just got people's stories and published a book, put it on Amazon. That point where in the essays where it asked for publication, I just put the link. So if they really wanted to see, they would see that I have a book on Amazon. Something that really raised my profile. So as I said, these letters they may not be speaking to what is currently on the site if you're going for a personal statement. I mean for recommendation letters, but at the time, these personal statements, these recommendation letters actually answered the questions. So I've seen there we've got the hand that is raised. So allow me in the next 5 minutes or so, we'll be winding up and then we can take questions. So what do you need for how many recommendation letters do you need? Commonwealth scholarships, you need 3. We've already talked about those. The Shivering Scholarship, you need 2, but you do not need them now. For your first choice in university, most universities will ask for 3, but they'll start working on your recommendation if you provided 2. They'll state whether they are looking for an academic or from your supervisor. They'll state all those things. For Oxford, the particular course that I wanted to do, they asked for 3 academic referees, and my referees were in Russia at the time. And all this dance that I've said, oh, we need to do this and that, plus the language barrier and at the time I didn't have, so I couldn't get into Oxford. I think because of that, because for Oxford, they asked just for 3 recommendation academic from your previous school. So you need to pay attention for your university. What are they asking for? Give them what they want. So if you look at this, if you do your maths, if it's as good as mine, over this scholarship cycle, you will need at least 14 recommendation letters. And I think some of these referees can write for the scholarship recommendation, but I think you should get separate referees to do your universities and others to do your recommendation. But they need to be very specific. They need to mention the university you're applying to, the course you're applying to. It shouldn't be just a generic one. I think, everyone else is thinking of a generic one. If you want to be part of the 2% for chevening that are selected, please do the work. Let them specifically do this. You can reach out to them and say, look, I'm applying to so many things. I'll need about 5 recommendations from you. One for the Commonwealth, one for chevening, the other one for this course, the other one for that course. So all of them, all in all from you, I'll need 5. So are you able to do the 5? Can I send you the draft? All you have to do is put on a headed paper and sign. If they say yes, then it will be good. It will be specific. You get 5 from each, then you'll be able to get your good recommendation. So what's the way forward? Reach out to your referees. You have a lot of work. You need about 15 recommendation letters. If you've not reached out to them, you're wasting time. Reach out, draft the recommendation letters. Also draft that expanded CV. You need it for those that do not ask for draft, that want your CV so that you can have a bit of meat. Give them a deadline that is 3 days before the actual deadline. We've said this already. Please do that. And then again, as I've said, you need to test for those university applications that need a specific, you just to put an email. For the first time, put one of your other emails so that you see how it comes, so that you can draft a recommendation letter that speaks to that. Afterwards, you can remove and put the name of your referee. And then during this period, when you need them to send, communicate with them free. There's a way you can push your referees without being overbearing. Like, sir, have you written? What have you done? You can just send a text. Good morning, sir. And then themselves will say, I owe you something. I'm doing it. You can do that by not being walk by their office. Say hi. How is it going? Can I help you with a bit of work? As you work on this, just try to find innovative ways of trying to get your referees to send you recommendation letters that are difficult, that are worthwhile. So we are going to do questions now. So if I could, let me see, stop sharing here. And also